Be me, 30, accounting job, decent pay, always thought I was smarter than most men I worked with. Grew up in a house where mum wore the pants. She'd cut dad down with words, he'd just go quiet, never fought back. I always thought it meant women were the strong ones. My mum called it leadership. I saw it as proof men couldn't handle responsibility. Dad was soft, quiet, hard-working, didn't make big speeches, just fixed cars, mowed lawns, went to work. I never respected him for it. I thought he was just weak. Brother grew up a lot like him. Polite, kind, never raised his voice, too nice for his own good. I used to tease him for being spineless, called him Dad Jr. He'd laugh it off, didn't bother fighting me. Me, on the other hand? I thought I was enlightened, went to uni, joined activist circles, always preached trust women. If a guy complained about marriage or divorce, I'd dismiss it. Always thought men whining about the system were just bitter losers. Believed the courts were fair, that abusers get what they deserve, that women only made accusations when they were desperate and unheard. My mum agreed, said men only cry victim when they get exposed. Then came this one event, a charity fundraiser. I got invited, needed a +1. Brother had nothing better to do, so I dragged him along. Thought maybe he'd meet someone decent, since he was still single at 33. Introduced him to one of my activist friends, a woman I admired. Outspoken, confident, always posting "believe women" on socials. I was proud of myself for bringing them together. Thought I was helping him find a strong, independent woman. They clicked instantly. She laughed at his dry humor, touched his arm when he spoke. He looked nervous, but she leaned in and made it easy. I saw it as proof she was perfect for him, pulling him out of his shell. He didn't date much, so when she showed interest, he went all in. They started seeing each other, and within a year, they married. Parents even gave them our old family house as a gift. I thought it was beautiful, a success story. I bragged to people that I'd introduced them, felt like I'd scored a win for feminism. The cracks started small. She'd check his phone sometimes, joking about how men can't be trusted. I didn't see it as controlling back then. I saw it as smart. She'd ask who he was texting if he took too long to reply. He'd shrug, show her, usually it was work stuff. She'd frown if it was a female co-worker. He worked in finance too, so of course there were women. She started getting jealous, called it emotional cheating, told him pretty women always get too much of his attention. He looked confused, said he was just answering emails. But eventually he started apologizing anyway, just to keep the peace. I ignored the red flags. Back then, I told myself women don't do wrong. Not really. If something felt off, I'd twist it until it made sense. Men lie, women protect. That's the story I clung to. Maybe I needed to believe that, because if women could be cruel too, what did that make my whole worldview? Thought, that's just marriage. Women have to keep men in line. Besides, she was one of us. She knew how men worked. She wasn't going to put up with disrespect. So when she made him delete a co-worker's number, I clapped for her. Told my friends, she's strong, she sets boundaries. Brother stayed quiet, just nodded. Years passed, 2 kids came along. On the outside, they looked like the perfect family. Inside, she had her claws deeper and deeper into him. Wouldn't let him go out with friends unless she approved. Would scroll through his social media accounts at night. If a woman left a comment, she'd interrogate him about it. He still never raised his voice, just kept giving in. Dad once pulled me aside and said, "He looks tired." I brushed it off, said all men look tired when they're married. I believed it was normal. Her performance wasn't just online. She started planting stories with friends. Would sigh, say, "I don't feel safe at home sometimes." Women rushed to comfort her, offered numbers for shelters, lawyers. She nodded, saved them in her phone like trophies. Even visited a shelter once, signed her name in the logbook, then left 10 minutes later. All just to have it on record. At home, she leaned down to the kids and whispered, "Daddy gets angry when you're bad?" They repeated it, confused, even though they'd never seen him shout. It wasn't random, it was all staged, piece by piece, like a chessboard moving toward checkmate. Couple weeks before everything collapsed, there was this school event for the kids. Teacher stood on stage and publicly thanked my brother for volunteering so much. He'd helped with carpool, math club, even fixed a broken shelf in the classroom. Whole room clapped. He went red but smiled shyly. I thought it was sweet. Wife sat stiff in her chair, arms crossed, jaw tight. Later in the car she muttered, "He makes me look small in front of people." I didn't even question it, just nodded, thought maybe she had a point. Funny thing, I only remembered that moment later when it was too late. There was also one night I walked past their bathroom without them knowing. I swear I heard her talking to herself. A muffled cry sound, then silence. Didn't think much of it, just figured she was emotional. But after the arrest, I realized she'd been practicing. She was in the mirror rehearsing sobs, scratching her own arm to see how red it got. Cold, calculated, like an actress learning her lines. It didn't happen out of nowhere. She'd been simmering for weeks. The school event where the teacher praised him was just the start, but then she continued snooping on his texts to find a female boss complimenting him on his work. Called him the most reliable one on the team. He shrugged it off, embarrassed. She didn't. That night she spat out, "You love it when women fawn over you, don't you?" He looked stunned, said he didn't even notice. But to her, every nod of respect he got was an attack on her. She wanted the spotlight, and his quiet decency stole it without trying. That humiliation was the trigger. From that point, her plan sharpened into something cold and deliberate. The night it all broke, it was over something dumb. Money, I think. He wanted to save more for the kids. She wanted a holiday. They argued in the kitchen, kids upstairs. Neighbors said they only heard her shouting, never him. But she scratched her own arm with her nails, hard enough to leave red marks. Then she dialed 911, sobbing down the phone that he'd grabbed her, said she was scared for her life. Cops came fast. Flashing lights outside, neighbors already at their windows, kids at the top of the stairs, crying, "Daddy didn't do anything." Dragged him out in cuffs with them watching. She clutched her arm, shoving it at the cops, red marks glowing under the porch light. Kept repeating, "He grabbed me, he grabbed me." He tried to speak. "Please, I didn't touch her." But the officer cut him off, barked, "Shut up, sir," like guilt was already proven. A neighbor across the street filmed the whole thing on their phone. Her sobbing into her hands, kids screaming, him shoved into the back of the cruiser. I stood frozen, hearing my mum's voice echo in my head. Believe women. They dumped him into holding with real criminals, guys with tattoos on their faces, one man muttering to himself in the corner. First thing they did was strip search him, told to squat, cough, lift his arms. A man who never even raised his voice, treated like a violent thug. Later, a tattooed cellmate asked, "What you in for?" He whispered, "Domestic violence." The man sneered, "Figured. You're the worst ones." My brother said it felt worse than if they'd hit him. The shame of wearing a label he didn't earn. First phone call he got, he didn't ask about himself. Just whispered, "Please check on the kids for me." Voice cracking through static, scared they'd believe her lies forever. Meanwhile, I opened Instagram that night and saw her post. A black and white selfie captioned "Survivors Finding Strength." Hundreds of likes, comments cheering her on. I felt sick, but still caught myself thinking, what if he did snap? Told one of my feminist friends about it over lunch. She shrugged, said, "Men can hide abuse for years, don't be fooled." I nodded, forcing agreement, but my chest felt hollow. Next morning, I was still defending her in my head. Told myself maybe he lost control, even if he never raised his voice before. I was ready to testify in her favor if needed. He looked broken, hollow-eyed when we saw him in holding. Still, part of me believed her. Saw her outside the courtroom with her lawyer. He showed her how to angle her arm so the scratches caught the light, looked darker. Told her when to pause, when to dab her eyes, when to tremble her voice. When she took the stand, she performed perfectly. Every sob rehearsed, every glance downward timed. Her fake emotion contrasted with his silence. He just sat there, dignified, too proud to beg. And that silence made him look guilty. I could see the judge doubting, but protocol held him back. He muttered once, "We can't ignore her claim." That line alone was enough to keep my brother in chains. I sat in the gallery whispering to myself, but women don't lie, do they? But the words felt foreign even as I said them. Then I overheard two men behind me mutter, "Doesn't matter if he's innocent, the accusation's enough." And for the first time in years, I had no comeback, nothing to say, only silence ringing in my ears. After court one day, I grabbed a coffee near the courthouse and ended up sitting next to this older guy in a suit, maybe mid-50s, clearly another casualty of the system, a folder of legal documents tucked under his arm. We started talking, small chat at first, then he asked why I was there, and I said quietly, "My brother's on trial." He nodded like he already knew what that meant, like it was a script he'd seen too many times. Then he told me a story. 10 years ago, his ex filed a protective order against him out of nowhere, claimed he threw a lamp and scared the kids. He swore he never touched a lamp in his life, didn't even own one in that house. But once it was filed, the court treated him like a loaded gun. He had to move out, sleep in his car, could only see his kids supervised for months. Even when the case was thrown out, the label stuck. "She never needed evidence," he said, stirring his coffee slowly. "Just her word. That's all it takes." He leaned in, voice low, almost conspiratorial. "You women don't realize. A man lives every day knowing one sentence could erase him." Then he tapped his folder against the table, hand trembling. "Truth doesn't matter. The process is the punishment. Even if you win, you lose." I didn't know what to say. My throat was dry as I watched his hands shake while he packed up his papers. Before he left, he looked back at me and said, "Your brother's not the first. He won't be the last. Remember that." I walked home with those words echoing in my head, and for the first time, I wasn't just doubting her. I was scared. Court was a circus. She came in with screenshots of texts, chopped up to look like he was controlling. "Where are you? When will you be home?" On paper, it looked cold, sinister, like proof of obsession, until his lawyer pulled the full threads. Turns out, he was just asking about dinner plans, about picking up the kids, about mundane, ordinary things. She had cut out her replies that made him look normal. Then the lawyer brought in colleagues and neighbors who vouched for his character, even produced doorbell camera footage from that night. She stepped onto the porch alone, no marks, pacing with her phone, then re-entering. He never left the living room, where he sat with the kids. My stomach dropped. I realized she had played everyone, including me, but it didn't matter. The accusation meant automatic holding. He still spent weeks in jail pre-trial. He lost his job because of it. She filed for divorce while he was inside, took over the family house, and told the kids Daddy hurt Mommy until they believed it. By the time he got out, my brother was broken, financially ruined, reputation gone. I tried to convince myself the system would correct itself, that the truth would set him free, but the court never apologized for the wrongful jailing. His boss didn't give him his job back, and his friends looked at him differently. No matter how much evidence cleared him, the stain stayed. She walked away with the house and custody leverage. Weeks later, my brother finally got visitation. But the youngest flinched back and whispered, "Daddy's dangerous." The older one said, "Mom said you'd take us away if we trusted you." He froze, smile breaking, hands shaking midair. He forced himself to keep his voice gentle. "I'd never hurt you." But they avoided his eyes, already believing her lies more than his truth. He just kissed their foreheads, walked out, sat in his car, and cried. I knew, because he called me right after, his voice shredded, hollow. I went to his new flat once. Tiny, damp walls smelled like mold. Air mattress on the floor, piles of unopened bills stacked against the wall. He couldn't even bring himself to shave. Would stand in front of the mirror, razor in hand, then set it back down. Said he hated looking at his own reflection now. His hands trembled when he tried signing checks. Sometimes he avoided going grocery shopping because he swore people were staring, like everyone could see the word abuser stamped on his forehead. Credit cards maxed from legal fees. He kept apologizing for the mess. I wanted to scream that he didn't need to apologize for anything. I found him once sitting on that air mattress in the dark, no lights on, no TV, just him and the hum of the fridge from the next room. His phone buzzed with a bill reminder, and he didn't even flinch. He just stared at the wall like it was safer not to move. Noticed his shoes by the door, soles worn flat. Realized he hadn't bought new ones in years, probably couldn't afford to. The kind of detail you miss until it's too late. He used to polish them every Sunday before work. Now they sat there, cracked leather, gathering dust. Another time, I watched him try to button his shirt for a court appearance. His fingers trembled so badly he had to start over 3 times. Finally, he just left the top button. Open, tie crooked, looking more like a teenager at prom than a grown man defending his life. And when he caught me staring, he muttered, "Sorry," under his breath, as if he had failed me by not looking sharp enough. That broke me more than anything, because I knew the man he used to be, quiet, reliable, steady as a rock. And now here he was, shaking over a button. His old friends stopped inviting him to barbecues. Family gatherings got tense, everyone whispered. Even at church, people avoided eye contact. One man shook his hand quickly, then pulled away like he'd touched something dirty. I still tried defending her when talking to girlfriends, said, maybe he was too cold, too distant. They looked at me like I'd lost it. One said flatly, "Your brother never even raised his voice. Stop excusing her." That's when something in me cracked. A week later, he said something that still haunts me. I'd rather she had actually hit me. At least bruises heal. I sat there speechless, realizing how fragile men are when a single lie can ruin everything. I sat there thinking about every smug thing I'd ever said, and I keep wondering, did I help destroy him? How many times did I laugh at men online, not knowing I was laughing at my own brother's future? Tell me, was I complicit or just ignorant? All the years I mocked men online for complaining. How I'd laughed at red pill posts and said men were just bitter. Now I was staring at my brother, a man I loved, wrecked because the system bent over backwards for her story. Mum tried to defend the wife, said men just needed to try harder, that women don't lie without reason. Dad stayed quiet, eyes down, like always. But this time, I felt it. The weight of his silence wasn't weakness. It was survival. He knew the game all along. The worst was when I overheard the wife with her friends. She admitted one of them had told her, "If you ever need to, just say he hit you." Courts believe women. And she laughed, said it worked like a charm. Meanwhile, my brother sat in a cheap rented apartment, sending me texts about missing his kids. I didn't even know how to reply. The kids asked me once why Daddy doesn't come home anymore. I froze, mumbled something about adults fighting, but their eyes were already poisoned. They thought he was dangerous because that's what she told them. I started replaying my whole life, remembering Mum mocking Dad for fixing the car wrong while he just took it, remembering how she praised me for being outspoken while ignoring my brother's quiet kindness. Realized those seeds shaped me into who I was, a woman who thought men deserved this until I watched my brother live it. Late one night, I scrolled through old arguments I'd had online. Me typing, "DNA doesn't matter, real men step up." Me typing, "If you don't abuse women, you have nothing to fear." And now all I could think was, my brother did everything right and still lost everything. Last week, we grabbed coffee. He looked older than Dad, even though he's only 36. Hands shook as he stirred his cup. Told me he doesn't know if he'll ever risk loving again. I had no words, just sat there, guilt gnawing at me. Because I was the one who introduced them, the one who preached the system was fair, the one who told him she was a strong, independent woman. I went home that night, lay in bed, and realized something. Men aren't safe in marriage. Not if the rules can be twisted this easily. Not if silence and kindness are treated as weakness. Not if one accusation can erase your entire life. For the first time, I admitted it to myself, out loud, whispering into the dark. I was wrong. But then still, a part of me clung on. I thought, maybe my brother's an outlier. Maybe 99% of the times this happens, the man would have deserved it all.